and going back to what you're saying, like what he said earlier, a lot of times that spiritual warfare, that spiritual violence that you're going through, kind of seeps out into the physical realm. Right? Think about this. Like when you're going through it, you're going, especially my business, it's constant stress. I'm a high producing real estate agent, dealing with people of all different kinds
Shoes off talk. We have the beautiful host directly in front of me, Christy Austin.
Thank you.
And then to my right, we have the man on the ones and twos.
Boy.
We are honored today to have Chris Durbin in the building. It's funny because this wasn't anything planned.
Nope.
I ran into Chris the other day at an event here in the building. And actually, he ran into me. He was like, hey, somebody said I need to know you.
Yeah, that's right.
And
you got to know Tim, right?
And I was like, huh. I was like, okay, it's nice to know that people speak highly of you. And we just got to talking, and we share a lot of the same beliefs. And, we didn't have a topic for today's show. And just talking to Chris, one of the things that came to mind, and I think a lot of us is dealing with it, is spiritual warfare.
Right.
And so when I put the topic out to Floyd and Christy, and Chris had already knew about it, and they both were really open to speaking about that. And I guess that was something I later found that something Chris, it's been something that's like been on his heart and mind, and events he has coming up. But without further ado, the man to my left,
Chris. Kentucky Chris, right? Chris with a K.
Right.
Are you Christy with the CH?
I'm with a K too.
All right. See? I like it.
I don't like the KK.
Well, it's funny. You ever seen Lane Kiffin skit that Peter Tosh does? Well, not Peter Tosh, but Tosh 2.0. Kiffin's Crimson Corner. And it's all K.
Oh, wow.
So my buddy Jay Rice, he's down for weeks from Atlanta. He's up in here a lot too. And and I mean, we're adults. He's a black guy. He said, I want to do Chris's Kingdom Come. And I was like, no, it's a lot. That's a little bit too many K's for me. So it's not going to happen, bro. So I'm glad that we're all adults so we can have these conversations.
Oh, yeah. And you're on Shoes Off talking.
Yeah. So
we have them uncomfortable, unapologetic conversations. And the purpose behind it really is, man, people need to know their truth. Jelly and all that stuff.
That's right. We're gonna get into it today.
Really get into what the real truths are because it's so covered up. So tell us about yourself, Chris, and what you got going on.
So originally from Louisville, Kentucky, not Louisville. Don't say Louisville. It's just the wrong way to say it. Came out here about 6 years, well, a little over 5.5 years ago. But my folks have been here for about 30 years. So it's not unfamiliar territory for me. We decided to liquidate, pack up, close our business down, and start a new one out here. So I run a real estate business. I have a real estate team. We have about 18 people on staff. When on my way out the door in Kentucky, I had a guy pull me off to the side of my church. He's like, now go there and be a kingdom builder, right? So I'm like, oh, I know there's something in it. And fast forward 5 years later, started the Kingdom Builders Conference, which is a men's only conference right here in Chandler. Our first event was supposed to be 3 hours, turned into a 7-hour event. We had guys' lives change. We had men crying. It was the wildest event I've ever seen in my life. And it was my baby. So I was very blessed to be a part of that. So we're bringing that back February 1st, right here at the Forum in Chandler. We're going to talk about spiritual violence. We're going to get up there and get a little gritty with our lives and what we're going to, kind of pour into other men and try to transform lives. So we bring in some pretty radical guys all across the country. I've got guys in Atlanta, guy in the music business. He was in prison for murder, unjustly convicted. Thank God. So he got out of prison. He was actually in Angola. Nobody gets out of Angola. If you know anything about the prison system down in Louisiana.
Oh yeah.
Got another guy who was ex-cartel member coming in. We got another guy who was in the mob coming in. These are all guys who turned their life around for the better, obviously. I'm a man of faith. I'm not the best man of faith that there is. I
don't think there is.
My wife says
I
you're.
don't think there is a best man or woman of faith. We do what we can.
Yeah, you know, my wife, she's got a shirt that says I'm a Christian, but I cuss a little, right? I mean, that's not nothing to brag about, but, you know, but we are from Kentucky. We've kind of got that Kentucky swag to us. I always tell everybody I'm a streetwise country boy. Grew up in Louisville, worked on farms in Bardstown. You know, and just happy to be here, man. I love telling stories. I love chopping it up. I love being around people, like-minded people, man. So, like, high energy, right? So.
Oh, yeah. And it's, you know, me and Floyd both, you know, and I don't know what this story is as pertains to the Bible and all that, but Floyd, that's part of our lives, or our whole lives.
Right.
My dad's a pastor, mom's a missionary, grew up in a church. And, you know, like they say at the black church, I went to church I went to church six days a week, 3 sessions on Sunday, and so you know that it's always been a foundation of my life. And you know, there are no perfect Christians. There are no perfect people.
Well, if we were perfect, why wouldn't we wouldn't need Christ, right? So.
And there wouldn't be repentance. That's the reason God made it possible. Had not been for His grace and His today's topic is something that's near and dear to me because you know I'm fighting my own little spiritual warfare. You know I can't speak for everybody else, but I'm fighting my own spiritual warfare. So it's a very important topic for me to talk about. I know Floyd. You know, we all have our stuff that we're going through, but I just wanted to educate you know some of our listeners that might not be aware of what spiritual warfare is. It's a Christian concept of fighting against works of evil forces. It is based on the biblical belief in evil spirits or demons that are said to intervene in human affairs in various ways. It can be spiritual or it can be physical. Sometimes it's spiritual.
That's right.
So it's important that we understand what that is and that it can appear in many different ways. I know she's a very spiritual person. You know, she's the one that we kind of go to that she may shoot me a text at night and say, hey, make sure your cups and your whatever's lined up so you can get good in it. Not that per se, but
put your mask on
that,
first.
Hey, well, where's your bed facing? Make sure it's facing the moon tonight. You know, so you can get all of the positive energy. Or go outside in the sun and put your butt in the air.
Is that one of those tan your butthole things?
Yeah.
Right? So shoes off, right? We're get real now.
Or your balls in the sun. It's like, hey, go outside, put your legs in the air, and just let the sun hit your balls.
That kind of show. I like it.
Oh, bro, you on shoes off. If you didn't know, now you know.
Yes. I text him a lot, like 111. I'll be like this message. I'll see the time at 111, and I'm like, Tim, this is for you.
Yeah. Understanding there's 2 111s. It's the afternoon and the 1 in the morning, and I'm getting both of them.
Yes.
Both of them, and I've been known to get the 444.
If 444 is my number, but like I'll get random numbers and whoever pops in my head when I look at that number, I'm like, that message is for them. So I'll text them 111, and he's like, what the hell is 111? I was like, it's me from the beginning, but I thought of you when I looked at the time. I look at the time almost all the time when it's 111.
My folks do that too.
It's like, it's
Bro,
dang.
I have. There's been times where I've gotten 444, 555. 666, and that's 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I love that she's like that because.
Well, maybe stay away from the 666.
Yeah. I like that she's like that because I'm like that. You know, when God puts somebody on my heart, I've learned over the years that when He says reach out to me or tell someone, and I've been out in public and I've literally told people, "I'll be all right," and they look at me like.
Yeah.
And God just gave me that word to give them. You know, and I think you're doing yourself and your relationship with God, injustice, don't.
That's right.
So, you know, I randomly check on people. Hey, I don't want nothing. Came across my mind.
Yep.
Wanted to check and see how. And I can't tell you how many people that have done that to me, and they caught me in some of the times where I, needed that. And it was unexpected. I'm like, how do you know I'm going through? How do you know I'm catching it right now? But it's good to act upon those. Make sure that you're staying in. Lloyd. Well, for me,
Right.
I mean, I do. Big time. My mind is really, but I'm really get to the point. I was like, I'm like, this is not thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Reality. Chris, why was it?
I think it's men in general. And going back to what you're saying, like what he said earlier, a lot of times that spiritual warfare, that spiritual violence that you're going through, kind of seeps out into the physical realm, right? Think about this, like you're going through it, especially my business, it's constant stress. I'm a high producing real estate agent, dealing with people, all different kinds of life. 20 years in the business, every day's new. And if I'm going through something, and I have 3 teenage daughters, come on now. You already know.
Oh, yeah.
But there's things in my life, where I've been, when I say like the physical part, right? Like, my wife may catch me at the wrong time, and I'm just dealing with this in my head, and like, you snap. You're like, oh, hold on a second. That's where things like that kind of seep out. You got to get the spiritual warfare under control. Finally attack back, right? That's what I always talk about. So for me, it was more like it was something that we men we bottle up. Like you see the reels now, the TikToks and everything else, where guys they're sitting in the garage and they're screaming on the outside. They come home, they're smiling to their kids. Hey kids, right? But where's all this going? We got to find a way to fight back. We got to find a way to fight back violently. That's where the spiritual violence was to me. When you have things going on in your life, or even like your flesh, right? Things we don't need to be doing. And we get really raw with these guys, man. I'm telling you, like we had a guy up there on stage who he was basically pointing in people's face, stop watching porn. It's messing up your head, right? And it's messing up your relationships, not only with your wife, but with your kids and everybody else around you. Stuff like that, right? We're having those conversations with men. And it's like addictions, whatever, like, things that we're doing that we're treating our wives wrong, bad. We're treating our business bad. We're treating our employees bad or whatever else. But we have to find ways to spiritually be violent and attack that back. Like, I'm not going to fall into this trap again. I'm not going to go back and eat this vomit again, like the word says. I'm not going to go back and keep doing this thing over and over and over like a dog. I'm going to be the big dog on the porch, not the little puppy pissing in the corner, and I want to fight back. I want to fight the enemy back in these situations. I told you about a friend of mine. And this guy, he's like, he's Bieber. You know what I'm saying? He's Wally Cleaver. He's been like that his whole life. At church, he's raised always pure kid. Met his wife. They met in high school, married in college, had a few kids. And just here lately, like his kids are lashing out on him, they're turning their back on him. Wife got diagnosed with breast cancer. And he's like, I don't understand why they're attacking me, why the enemy's attacking me like that. You gotta fight back, man. That's what this relentless. I like to use the term violence because we got to get violent and relentless in this situation. violently attack it back. Violently attack it back with the word and your prayer and your actions and, of your service and all those things, right? I mean, we can be violently graceful, right? Be violent with our grace toward people. Turn the other cheek. I mean, graces, that's huge. I think about, how can you tie violence and grace together? Well, be relentless in your grace.
Yeah.
So when I say violence, I mean like relentless. And when we're dealing with the spiritual warfare, it's being violent, in how you treat your business. Be relentless in how you want to build your brand, how you want. Look at you, man. You got all kinds of violence sitting over here, right? I mean, it's just everything in your life. Let's treat it like we're being violent toward it. I don't like using like the American English Standard Version of the word violence, but the Merriam-Webster version is also part of that. Says is to destroy. Let's use violence to destroy those things in our life that are holding us down, and especially with men, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to single out men and exclude women in this situation, but for the purpose of what my event is all about too, is you've got to find ways. How do we go to battle? Because war is life, life is war. There ain't no cutting corners, right? There was a song by a guy named Canola. Never even heard of the guy. And that's what really started me down this path of spiritual violence. He has a song called Spiritual Violence, and it's like a marching song. And he's just, it's everything like a beat. The beats are a marching beat. And he's just ripping and running about, I'm violent. As a Christian, I'm violent. Violent, oh gosh, I can get preachy now, all right? But think about it. Violence saved us. Well, and I mean, I don't know what your faith is, but my faith is my Christ on the cross for me, right? Thank God, because without that grace, who knows where I would be right now? And I could tell you all kinds of stories about addictions and being homeless and trash cans and all those things. But violence led to our salvation, right?
There's a lot of positive that comes out of violence. We think about the Black culture. We would not have the rights that we have. The rights that we have are our forefathers and people long before us. They knew sticking up for themselves and the people that looked like them. They knew that the outcome was going to be violent, and they understood that. And I think that's what I say this all the time. I think that we fall short in today's leadership is that we aren't violent messages. We aren't willing to take things to the extreme, to get and do the things that we want to do. Like you said, when we think about justice, definition of specific words, because it's always been used in a negative way, it's just like failure, right? You talk about failure. Like when I first started my brand 7 years ago, people asked me hey, what's going to be your brand? I say failure. Trends, like why failure? And we've been so programmed to associate certain words with negativity, and so I love the shock of telling people that opens up the conversation of the positive aspect, especially when people that we admire. And when you put it in certain perspectives,
that's right.
Where I'm at, if it had not been. So that is true. We need to use some of those expressions and words that we use in a negative way to express that those are a means to positive things, not necessarily negative things. But I love the way God, like, for me, it's taken on a whole nother level. There's hard working and there's violence. Like,
right.
For me, it doesn't get more intense than violence. I want to violently attack my work.
Yes.
I want to violently pursue greatness. I want to violently pursue success. And when you start saying things like that, if you say that enough, anything below that is substandard for you. And so when you use those words, you understand too what comes with that. And so it's just like anything else we do. If you anything you speak, you can speak into existence.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we always have to watch what we say and how we say it. You know, I just told somebody this the other day. The lady asked me, well, how's your day going? You having a good day? And I told her, and I always tell people that. I know these two would probably heard it. I don't have bad days. I don't have bad
I like
days
it. I like
at
it.
all. I have days that don't go as planned, but I don't have bad days. Because anytime I can wake up and thank God for allowing me to see another day that it was not promised, and I can get right today what I got wrong yesterday, great day. It's a great day.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that aren't amongst us right now that would love the opportunity that you're complaining about.
That's right.
And it's crazy that we have to put things in perspective like that, but sometimes you do. And I mean, we all have to be reminded of our why. You know, life happens, we go through it, and you know, we all have had those pity parties every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of how long you're gonna have those, how long it's gonna take you to snap out. And sometimes those instances where you gotta think about the bad things that happen in your life, but it happened to other people, for you to put things in perspective. You know, one of the times where we really put things in perspective is when we lose people. On the heels of a loss is when we value life. And it's crazy that we're wired like that. But I love the analogy of using the word violence. You know,
Well,
it doesn't have to be pertaining to nothing.
And it doesn't have to be scaled so large either, right? I mean, come on, you're a military guy, so you've heard the speech: make your bed, make your bed, make your bed, right?
Yep.
You know, sometimes, I mean, I'm really guilty of this. Alarm goes off. You know, I don't have a meeting until 10 o'clock.
Snooze.
I got to violently get myself out of bed, right? You know, I got to violently get ready to go to work. Hard night of drinking night before, had some clients, whatever else. I got to violently get up and figure it out for that morning, get my head out of the fog, get back into the game, right? It's just, I mean, it doesn't have to scale so large. We can scale it down to the size of a penny, right? So you went something with the camera here, by the way. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, it'll work.
All right. Just making an observation. I don't.
That's
got my shoes off.
That's one of. Oh my God. Christy, don't do it.
Uh-oh. You know, but I like that, man. It's just, you know, but going back to the war, it's just, you know, how do we conquer our mind? And the enemy is going to go right there first, every single time. You're not good enough. It's not good enough today. Don't just stay in bed. You know, why get up today? You know, don't make that phone call. They're going to say no, right? I mean, how many times? I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been in sales, but like it's a big part of my job, right? Calling people, they're going to tell me no 9 times out of 10. They're going to tell you no, man. They're going to tell you no. All right. And there's that book too, Go for No. And there's the different ways that you get around that mindset. I mean, you know, I feel like we all know David Goggins at this point, right? You know, dude, the maniac. I mean, he lives violently, realistically, right? Yeah, I blew both my knees out today. I'm going to go jog 500 miles, right? But I mean, you know, I want to live a life like that. I want to live a life like that where I'm showing my side to somebody else's face. But if I can control this, if I can control it violently, if I can get down and get on, you know, if I can't do anything else, I can get on my knees and pray, and I can pray violently. I can raise my hands and I can worship violently, right? And I can do those things, and they will change. They will change the outcome of my day. They will change the outcome of that minute. They will change the outcome of my life long term. Anyway. I want to hear your perspective on it.
I see a lot of smiling, and whenever Christy smiles, that means that
I can hear them. I can hear them.
They're grinding over there.
Yeah.
But when I got your text, Tim, that the conversation was about spiritual versus physical warfare, that I think you said. And I was like, okay, well, that's easy. The difference between that is obviously physical is something you can see. Spiritual is something you can't see.
That's right.
You know, physical, the toxins and chemicals being put in our food, water, medications that physically make us ill, but we can take that. If we really want to, most people don't. It's that. It's causing that illness. Spiritual warfare, you can't see it unless you're having exorcism, which you're asking about my, you know, religion. I lead That's Catholic church. We talk about, like you, Tim, went to church 7 days a week. 7 days.
It was up,
Every
down,
day.
ritual, religion, right?
Yes,
So,
it was, confessions, and have the right and wrong. So when you were raised like that, you put so much pressure on yourself
Yep.
to do the right thing, the right versus wrong. And if you make the wrong choices, you hold yourself up to such a high standard that because then as soon as something goes wrong in your life or something that you perceive is wrong, your world collapses. Exactly. It's God, why? Like why did I do wrong? I thought, I'm living the right life. Thought I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. So we have this internal fight going on with the good and evil, the wrong and right, through my yoga journey. And really, I started, I'd say, as a teenager. I started going to different religions, learning about different religions. I don't understand this fighting between religions. I don't understand it. Why can't we all just love each other? It doesn't matter who you believe in, who I believe in. Why can't we love? So I started going to different to their beliefs. And that's when I came to spiritual. That's how I view myself. I'm not religious. I will go to any religion. I will, be the support of whoever I'm with, wherever I'm at. I will support, have respect for, and really the law of one, that we are all, that's truly what I believe. And so in order to really truly believe that on the spiritual journey that I've been on and through yoga meditation is to understand that there is no wrong or right. There are experiences that we choose to have. When we're suffering, it's to have gratitude all the time, to turn it back to gratitude. For example, like my car just broke down the other day. Initially, I go to wanting to curse and, why? And then I'm like, turn everything back to gratitude, adjust that mindset, because if you can see the good in all, even the person who's yelling at you or cursing you, to realize that even when somebody tells me that, that someone, what that tells me is that, wow, they really love that person. To get to that point, to say they hate it, that means it's so passionate, that person really hurt them, for them to use that word. They really must have loved them. So it's having understanding to the good and the evil, and realizing that it's a balance of both, and they both serve a purpose. And the more you can realize that, the more you can control your mind, that when something is perceived wrong, you can switch it back and get it back on track.
Well, that's very important. I love your perspective. What's crazy is I grew up a strict Protestant. The women would wear skirts above their knees. Participate in a lot of what they call secular worldly things. So it was very strict. And my father had an opportunity when he was in the military to go to a lot of Bible. And that's when he realized it's not about a particular, it's about your relationship. And you said something. I have to remind myself about this stuff all the time when something bad happens. Is like it's not necessarily about that situation. Like when I'm running late or something somewhere, first thing I think is like now as I've gotten older, lived the full life. I didn't need to go that way, or when you get diverted because of a traffic accident or something sends you obsolete. Like, oh man, now I'm gonna be late, and now I switch it over. It's like, you know what? I avoided. God had me avoid what you're talking about with negative people. I've been in sales, a large part of my work career, And customer service is such a big part of who I am. So that's why I'll pay more for good customer service
Right.
than I would for the actual product. And one of the things that I had to learn early in my sales career is when not taking things personal is just to understand that if you have someone thinking, even using the word think, that's a mistake. Get yourself out of that situation. You didn't do much of that. That person's going through. You just happen to be there. And step back and
What warfare are they battling?
yeah, and that's really what it is. That when you know that all I did was come up and ask a question, and you're snapping on me, that ain't about you. It's something they're dealing with. They're dealing with something on the inside. Say a kind word, get the conversation over with, and keep it moving. Don't take it personal.
Yep.
And that's something with growth. Notice I didn't say with age, because growth doesn't have an age.
Come on, plenty of guys our age that are not grown up.
Growth does not have an age, and like you, I've been homeless.
Yep.
So I know what the struggle looks like. It doesn't get any easier when it comes. You just learn how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're absolutely right. We grew up in areas where we didn't. There were certain things that we weren't allowed to do. Now, while we're of age, man, it's important for us to pass those messages along. And I'm really proud of what you're doing.
Thank you.
We need to do that. We need to understand that we're all in this together. To piggyback on what you were saying, somebody posted something, and we talk about everything, politics. So,
that's all right.
So, somebody had posted something about, hopefully we can get Trump back in office, fix everything. I just made a comment. It was just something that I said, I don't know why we're so anxious to make such radical change when that was a time in our Black history where we felt the most unsafe. During the Trump administration, I was so fearful of my Black kids that I was contemplating moving where they were, just so I can watch over them. And I say that because it was bad for me living in Gilbert. I never got pulled over, more or less pulled over, and almost had guns drawn on me a few times in Gilbert for no reason. One, because I switched lane and didn't use the signal, and the other time I was coming out of a strip mall and did not completely stop at a stop sign. And it just it opened my eyes, and then you knew what was going. You saw what was going on the corner of Gilbert Road and Warner every Thursday. It was Trump supporters and also Black Lives Matter on opposite corners, and it would get violent up there. Like, you see guns. I drove by on the Trump side, and I'm just looking out my window, and some of the stuff that they were saying to me, and violently, like calling me out my name. I'm like, I had never seen nothing like that in any administration. But I told them, I said, we need to be. If it doesn't benefit us all, then that's a problem. And if what we want only benefits a certain group, that's a problem. And I would have said that if we would have had a Black president in office that made white people feel them. I'd say the same thing. We have to stick together. If we're going to get out of this predicament we're in, we're going to have to stick together. And that means all races. And as you were saying with religion, we got to figure out this power of one. And that's not talking about one person. That's all of us being on one accord. And we have to be equally yoked. In order for us to be equally yoked, we have to be like. And so we understand from a biblical standpoint of view, like, we don't even want a partner that we're not equally yoked.
That's I can give you real life examples of being equally
Yeah,
yoked and not equally
yeah,
yoked. I mean, my
yeah.
business tripled when I joined with Chuck, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, it was like, okay, I hear you.
Yep.
I hear
Yep.
you.
We got it. And that's the biggest part, man. Is we got to listen. So, man, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, real quick.
We
probably could have chopped it up about 4 hours in here. It feels like.
Look, this is therapy. This
Yeah.
is a therapy session, and most people don't realize it until they really get in here and start talking. But it was a pleasure. We're gonna have you back.
Cool. Thank you for having me.
You have some stuff going on, and we want to be a part of it. We appreciate all of you guys tuning in today. Shoes Off Talk. Catch us next Thursday at noon. And the following Saturday is guiding episode. So, Chris, it was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Just to give you all right. Like, as we end all shows, love, peace, and soul.